Welcome, Gina. Hi. So
Hi
let's
to you,
get started.
Springer.
Okay, so welcome to yet another episode of the Indus podcast. Today, we're going to have a discussion around the latest features and improvements of the software update manager. It's the key to your seamless software maintenance and software modernization. So the session will show you how advanced capabilities simplify your move to S/4HANA Cloud, reduce technical system downtime and project complexity, and at the same time, save costs as well. So you're well equipped to take advantage of the latest innovations and cloud capabilities with the downtime optimized conversion approach. So we have Anant and Miria who are going to take us through the session. If I can ask both of you to quickly introduce yourself and take it away, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Mirja. Hi, I'm a product manager at SAP. I have the focus of software maintenance, so upgrades, updates, conversions, topics like that. And I'm really excited to be here today together with my colleague Anand. Anand, over to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anant, and I'm also the product manager for the Software Update Manager tool, and have about 20 years, 22 years of experience in SAP, predominantly in upgrades, migrations, conversions, and optimizations with respect to the overall runtime and also the business downtime. So, looking forward to share our insights with you today as well.
Good. I think then we can dive right in, right?
Yes, please.
Sure. I will share my screen with the little presentation we prepared for you. And yeah, as mentioned, today's topic is the system conversion with software update manager. We are here as your product management. And yeah, feel free to join us on LinkedIn for more information, for updated information, for key events in your area. And of course, if you have any questions, you can also reach out there or via email to us. Yeah, we are really happy to be part of these sessions here. As you know, we have there also other sessions, so feel free to check out the channel for more information around the tools you see here. We are part of the broader scope of guidance and transition path to SAP Cloud ERP with the SAP Business Transformation Center. And what you can see here on the slide, you have probably seen these overview slides, but allow me to lose some words here, is our holistic approach on guiding you to the best SAP Cloud ERP solution for you. So on the left-hand side, we see the guidance in the beginning that you have the possibility to get tool assistance for your choice of the right path to Cloud ERP, because there are different possibilities. We have the private cloud solution as well as the public cloud solutions. And of course, also we have hybrid models. And there are different ways to go there. And this is now bringing us to the right-hand side of the slide deck here. Let me quickly get my pointer. We have here the system conversion. What is the topic for today, which is the as-is conversion from SAP ECC to SAP S/4HANA with the Software Update Manager. We have a selective approach, which is called selective data transition as part of the SAP Business Transformation Center, which allows you to move a selected set of data from SAP ECC to SAP S/4HANA, not the whole scope, but only a selected part. And we have the new implementation, which can target the private cloud space as well as the public cloud space with the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit. So as you can see, there's quite a variety on what you can do. And we, as SAP, want to support you the whole way, as mentioned, with the beginning, so to say, so the approach which suits your requirements best. And then in the actual execution, we see over here, we have also different tooling. Today, as mentioned, the focus is the software update manager with the system conversion. Just as a side note, because I feel this is a very important tool. All of these approaches, especially the conversion approach, can be aligned with the RISE with SAP System Transition Workbench, which gives you kind of a brackets around moving to cloud ERP. Good. Having this said, we will then move right into the topic. What is a system conversion compared to the, so to say, normal upgrade? The system conversion is not only an upgrade, but is also a functional change in a sense. So we have an ECC data model in the old SAP ECC system. We have the ECC system version itself, which is an ECC 6.0, potentially with different EHPs and support packages attached. And we have this all running on a database, which can be any database or SAP HANA already. What happens now with the conversion is a change. And I think the most important part we have to mention is the data model. Yeah, so we are moving away from the old complicated ECC data model to a simplified data model on SAP S/4HANA. This really means that where we had formerly 5, 6 tables representing one logical business entity can be now combined into one table, yeah, which makes access faster, which makes access easier on a technical level. But of course, this also means, compared to a normal upgrade, that the data changes that have to be made, the movement of the data on a technical basis has to be a little bit more elaborated, because what has been distributed over 5 tables now moves to 1 table. This is what we call a conversion. Of course, also the software version changes. So we are not talking SAP ECC anymore. We are talking SAP S/4HANA. The current version is 2025. So for SAP S/4HANA, the release cycle is that every 2 years a major version is released, and the version has the naming of the year it has been released. So SAP S/4HANA 2025 is the current version, and 2027 is expected to be then the next version. And what's also important to note is that SAP S/4HANA runs on SAP HANA only and is also optimized for this database in terms of access. This means if you are on a database different than SAP HANA, you will also move database during the system conversion. And as Anand will mention later, you can do all of this in one step. Yeah, so it's not 2 projects necessarily that you first move database, for example, and then do the conversion of the SAP ECC to the software version SAP S/4HANA, but you can do it in one step if this fits your priorities and your needs. Coming back to this data model topic, as mentioned, it's about simplification. SAP S/4HANA is about simplification, and we have here this overview. I don't want to read it out in detail, but what it wants to tell you is that these orange and yellow kind of boxes here are tables and indexes. And we can see here with the example, sales order management and pricing. Yeah, we have quite a lot of tables containing the different information around the sales orders. Move to less tables. And I think the most prominent topic for this is financials. Yeah, so those who work in financials or have a finance-heavy system know tables like BKPF, BZAC, and you see here a lot of documents stored in different tables, a lot of indices, aggregation layers going on, and then moving over here to SAP S/4HANA, having basically one aggregation table here, AC DOCA, and only 2 document tables. Yeah, so this is kind of the reduction, the simplification we are talking about. on a technical level. Good. After this general overview, what does conversion actually mean? Why are we talking conversion and not only upgrade? Let's have a look at the agenda, what we want to share with you today. So the first part is around planning. So what helps you prepare for a conversion? We see here the tooling which is involved, which is the maintenance planner, the readiness check and simplification item check, the software update manager toolbox, the software update manager itself, and then a deep dive into the options. We will also look at how to perform the conversion and especially what options are there available to optimize the technical downtime. And we move to S4 here being the combined conversion and the database migration. As you recall, SAP S/4HANA runs SAP HANA database only. So if you are on a different database or you are on SAP S/4HANA and want to move to the cloud, you would need to move databases, obviously, or data centers. And this is exactly what this option supports. And last but not least, analysis. If you have done your first conversion sandbox and you have your first results in of runtimes and of also issue collection, there is also tooling available to help you understand what to optimize. Some of these tools you see, you are probably already familiar with because they are the same for the upgrade topic. For example, the maintenance planner. The maintenance planner is a tool available for planning a maintenance, as the name indicates, and it's basically a web application which has available in the background your system information. So you log in with your S user, and of course your S user then has your system landscape assigned, and the maintenance planner is aware of it. And what you can do then is to plan a maintenance event. And what it covers is the update upgrade path. So this is where you probably have already touched the maintenance planner, so to say, but it also covers the conversion combined with the move to the cloud. Installation is also possible. It's the end-to-end planning tool, as it says here, covers all the aspects of planning your move to SAP S/4HANA Cloud. What it does is have access to your source landscape, and then when you select, then I want to move to SAP S/4HANA, also double check dependency if you have add-ons installed, for example, or business functions active that are not compatible with SAP S/4HANA. You will be guided there on what to do. For example, there are add-ons that are available on ECC and have a successor solution in SAP S/4HANA. You are then guided to automatically what is the version you will need to run on your SAP S/4HANA system. The tool is available, as mentioned, as a web tool in SAP for me or via a direct link you can see here. Also, you can search for it in the SAP support portal. As mentioned, this is something you might already know from the upgrade path. Which is SAP S/4HANA specific, is the readiness check and the simplification item check. The readiness check is also available as an web application, so to say, and what it does is, as the name indicates, it makes sure that your system is ready for the system conversion. What does that mean? It covers different topics. It covers topics like, do you have in your coding, for example, custom code that will not run on SAP HANA? Yeah, because it has a kind of database specific syntax, or it has a SQL statement that is not needed on SAP HANA anymore. It does check for add-ons. It does check for business function, all these topics, and make sure that your system is technically ready for the conversion and that you know beforehand what you need to prepare in your ECC to make it ready. The simplification item check is more directed at this data model changes we saw. So obviously, when we reduce tables, when we reduce complexity, it also means that the business process change in a sense. Yeah? And these changes also need some kind of preparation. I think the most prominent simplification item is the customer vendor integration, or CVI. You might have heard of it. Customer vendor integration means that we do not have a separate customer and vendor entities anymore in the system, but we combine it to only one entity, which is the business partner, which can have both roles, customer or vendor. But of course, this means that all your customer and vendor data, master data, needs kind of a cleanup, needs to be made consistent, that then this information can be kind of put together, combined into the business partner. This is a very prominent pre-project, which we have seen in a lot of projects already. One example for a simplification item that needs preparation work. So very important, readiness check, simplification item check. Run this before you actually start the technical conversion, so to say, because there might be additional pre-projects you need to cover before you can even complete your first conversion. This is really what makes it different compared to a standard upgrade. Speaking of upgrade, the readiness check is also available for the upgrade case, because this simplification is not a one-time step we did and then it's done, but also with ongoing SAP S/4HANA releases, we optimize the application more and more in terms of access, in terms of simplicity. So also before each and every upgrade, it makes sense to double check the simplification items, whether there is something new. Here we see a screenshot of the readiness check, and you see what it's covered. What I mentioned, simplification items, add-ons, your codes, and we see here the customer and vendor data for the topic of the CVI, the customer vendor integration. If you're planning your journey to SAP S/4HANA, from ECC to SAP S/4HANA, run the readiness check now, just to understand what is the things we need to prepare before we can get even started. And what we see here basically is already kind of the recommendation or the guidance we have for the general phases of a system conversion. Maybe we look at it on a broader scale, which is here, the preparation phase and the realization phase for this here. We have to consider several topics for the system conversion. One part is the general system requirements. Here talking about technical requirements, OS version, DB version, something like this, everything you can see in the product availability matrix. This is something you know from upgrades already. We have seen the maintenance planner, which prepares you in terms of the component level. So meaning, what kind of software do I actually need for my core system, for my add-ons? We have seen simplification items, which talks about the, so to say, customizing level. So what do I need to adapt in terms of my processes to fit to the simplified data model? And we see the custom code preparation, which is talking the development object level. One prominent example, I think, here is that on SAP HANA database, performance optimization for order by or with order by is not necessary. So you simply can omit this. By the way, all of this, as we have seen, is covered in the readiness check. And there you have also then hints on how to prepare your custom code automatically. So there's also a lot of things you can just remediate with one click. And all of this here is kind of embraced with the simplification item list. After all these preparations, and as mentioned, run the readiness check now because you might need a pre-project. Then the actual realization happens. So the technical conversion with the software update manager as a tool and also with application-specific follow-up activities. This is also important to mention. So it's not only preparation, but also there are some steps necessary after you move to SAP S/4HANA. Good. Talking about system requirements and system readiness, I would like to highlight the Software Update Manager toolbox, and I will just show you this in the system in one of my test systems, the Software Update Manager toolbox. Here we have a this is already an SAP S/4HANA system, but it also works, of course, in an ECC system. Is a transaction you have available. You can implement it with a transportable correction instruction, so meaning an SAP node. It's also delivered via SAP Basis. So if you have a high enough support package, it's already available in your system. And you can see here the transaction in the latest release. And we see a lot of little helpers available. We have a section with data from a software update manager run. So meaning this needs already information available from a conversion or from a finished upgrade. I will just minimize this because I want to talk about the preparation part, and the preparation part is here without data from a software update manager. So we have just the toolbox in the system, and we see here a lot of useful things we need to check before we start the software update manager process. Whether it's upgrade or conversion, doesn't matter. Inactive repository objects, the object catalog, open workbench requests, aborted tasks, and table conversions. What's also new with SAP S/4HANA is the silent data migration. This is, I saw, you have seen these overview there where I was also talking about application-specific follow-up activities. One automated follow-up activity is the so-called silent data migration. This is a preparation of the next release. So meaning if you now do a system conversion to SAP S/4HANA 2025, in the background, the system is already prepared for 2027 automatically. This is called silent data migration. And what's important that this silent data migration needs to be finished for the next upgrade. So meaning if we are now talking preparation for 2027, when you then actually do your upgrade to 2027, it is necessary that the preparations are already done. And this is exactly the monitor for this. So when you prepare for a upgrade or system conversion to SAP S/4HANA, consider the Software Update Manager toolbox as a means of preparation, because here you have a very good overview on what's left over in your system, where the actual process in the Software Update Manager would stop and not let you continue. So you have this right before you even start the tool on the top of your fingertips and can start cleaning up the system. Exactly. This is what I mentioned here. And now I would like to hand over to Anand for the Software Update Manager and the realization itself. Anand, back to you. I will stop my share and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Miria, for taking over the preparation part or the planning part of it. Now I'll continue with the Software Update Manager tool and the process of conversion and the things that are being involved as part of the conversion. Now, the Software Update Manager is a tool for all the maintenance activity for any SAP system in your landscape. Now, to start off with, when we talk about a maintenance activity, what do we mean is we talk about updates, upgrades, conversions, or even transport management as well. Now, to start off with, give you an example of what do we mean by an update is wherein I'm just moving the version, the base version of the SAP system remains the same, but I'm just adding some support packages to keep the system up to date to the current level. When I talk about an upgrade, I'm moving from one version to another version. Say, for example, ERP 6.0, EHP 6 to EHP 8, or S4HANA 2023 to 2025, or maybe even 2027. The third part, which we are going to discuss more today, is the S4HANA conversion, wherein we can use the SUM, the Software Update Manager tool, to move from ERP 6.0 to S4HANA 2025, or maybe going forward in 2027 as well. This also includes the option of migrating to cloud as well. The last option, or the option available as part of the Software Update Manager tool, is you can combine your regular transports as part of the Software Update Manager tool so that it runs like an upgrade or an update scenario, wherein you can reduce the overall business downtime that is required for your standard transport imports. And when I'm saying transport imports, I'm talking about bulk transports. So there is some maintenance strategy that you have to keep in mind when we talk about the Software Update Manager tool. So we release this tool thrice in a year, once in February, once in May, and once in October. The way it is managed is the current version is in maintenance, and the previous one is available as patch on request. So whenever you're planning for your conversion project or any upgrade project in future, see to it that you are on the latest version of SUM whenever you reach somewhere close to the production environment. Because chances are that if you start with one version in the sandbox, you may not be able to continue with the same version till the time you reach production. Because typically what we have seen in customer scenarios is a project for system conversion can range anywhere between 9 months to say 1.5 or 2 years. And you will not be able to get the bug fixes that are available with the latest release, the new features that will help you in optimizing your technical runtime, your business downtime as well. Those will not be available in the the older versions. So this is one thing that you have to keep in mind while you're planning the overall project.
Maybe just to add here that out of maintenance does not mean that you do not get support. I think this is important to consider. It does not mean that you will not get support. It does mean that if you encounter issues, we cannot deliver a fix for it. This is what it means. It means, of course, we can still try to save it in the system itself, but you will not get an updated software update manager version with a fix. As a patch, basically. There's no patch anymore.
Thank you for adding that, Maria. Okay, so the current version that is available is for Software Update Manager is 2.0 SP26, and which is part of the SL toolset 1.0 SPS 47. Now, this is how a Software Update Manager would look like. This is the initial screen of the Software Update Manager, wherein you provide the stack XML, which is generated by the maintenance planner, which was shown earlier by Miriam. And we are going to talk specifically about the downtime optimized conversion. And this is the option that you are going to see in the Software Update Manager tool, which will help you in converting your existing ERP system to S4 and also ensure that you have the shortest possible technical downtime, and which will also help you in having a shortest possible business downtime for your production system. Moving on, what are the options available in Software Update Manager? So let's start with the standard conversion scenario. Now, in any conversion scenario, there are two parts to it. One is the uptime and the one is the downtime part of it. In the technical uptime part, we are building the system on the target version. So if it could be S4HANA 2023, 2025, or 2027, the system, a shadow system will be built on this particular target version. And while this is being built, we'll reach a phase wherein the Software Update Manager will tell you that, okay, now I'm ready for the downtime. This is where we start with the ramp down activities. Now, when we talk about ramp down activities, the activities majorly include topics like locking all your user, ensuring your background jobs are completed, ensuring that the locks are the queues are been cleared, the data is isolated, there's a backup of the system, you have done your pre-snapshot of the data that is there in the system, and then you hand over the system to the technical team for forming the downtime activities. Now, at the start of the ramp down, that is where your business downtime starts. So that is where your system is unavailable for your business users. Now, as soon as the technical downtime starts, there are major things that are happening in the system itself. So the first is, like Media mentioned in the first slide, the data is migrated from any DB to a HANA database because S4 HANA works only on HANA database. So the first part is I have to do the data migration. And then there is a data model change that is happening between ERP 6.0 to S4 HANA. So the data has to be converted from ECC data model to S4 data model. And the SUM handle, the software update manager tool, handles the and SD related data conversion. The finance data conversion requires some additional customizing, and that's the reason it's not part of the SUM execution in the standard conversion. Now, as soon as the technical downtime has been completed, that is where the finance conversion starts. So the finance customizing, or let's say in a simple terms, the mapping of customizing in the S4 HANA data model needs to be done by your finance expert. And that will give the rule base for moving the data from the old ECC data model to the new S4 HANA finance data model, which is in the AC DOCA related tables. Once this whole finance conversion is completed, that is where the system can be handed over to your functional team for doing the validation, wherein they validate if the system is right in terms of data and the process, there are no issues in the system, and they can be handed over to business after a business go no go decision. And then that's where you start ramping up the system, wherein you get all your application servers up and running, you ensure that the queues are flowing and the integrations are open, the users are unlocked, and you're able to run the batch process and all. Now, just to be on this level itself, let's compare the second option, which is called as a downtime optimized DMO. Now, the difference between the standard conversion and the downtime optimized DMO is we have an option of migrating the data from existing database to the new HANA database in the uptime itself. So while the business users are running in the system, they are executing their transactions, the system is live, we can selectively identify the tables which run longer, either because of the size of the data in there, or maybe a slow access to that particular table. You can identify those large running tables and get them into uptime so that the data of those tables can be migrated to the target version in the uptime itself. The same thing continues with respect to the ramp down, wherein all the activities are done and the system is handed over to the technical team for continuing with the software update manager tool downtime part of it. The data migration of the balance table is done in this phase, and the and SD data conversion is also handled in this particular time. There are some additional data conversion that happens, or data migration also that happens, which you might be familiar about, something called as the extras, the AIMs, and then there is a new topic that's something called as the silent data migration, the SDMIs. So all these data migration and conversion happen in the technical downtime. The finance conversion, the finance data conversion happens something similar to the standard conversion itself. So somebody has to do the customizing for the financial data, and the finance data conversion has to happen so that the data moves from ECC data model to the S4 HANA conversion, S4 HANA data model. And then we have the time for validation and the ramp up. So if you see, compare the standard conversion and the downtime optimized DMO option, the business time downtime reduces because there is a small reduction in the technical downtime. Let's move on to the downtime optimized conversion. This is the third option that is available as part of the software update manager tool. So along with building the system for the target version, we are also doing the data migration of the data migration from ECC or any database to HANA. Now, you can target up to 95 or 97% of the data to be migrated in the uptime itself. Now, along with that, the data that has been migrated to HANA, you can perform the data conversion. So the software update manager tool handles the data conversion of the and SD area. You will have to perform the initial customizing or the customizing which is related to the finance area for performing the finance data conversion. Now, even this also happens in the technical uptime or the business uptime part itself. The ramp down activity remains same with respect to the standard and the downtime optimized DMO. When we come to the downtime part of it, the software update manager downtime part of it, the data that was being captured or generated in the system from the point of the initial data migration till the downtime ready state, those are being replicated to the target HANA database. And if the data is related to the SD or MM or FI, there will be data conversion also that is required. So that conversion happens in the technical downtime. And there are other activities that happen in the downtime part of it, and then the validation and ramp up remain as it is. Now let's peel the onion layer further and let's go a bit deep dive into what actually happens in S4HANA conversion part of it. So we start the software update manager tool for uptime processing. And what we do is we create a copy of the existing repository into something called as a shadow system. It's more of a skeletal in nature. And that is where we perform the workbench log. And as soon as we have the workbench log, you cannot have any development activities on the system. So there are few transactions also that have been logged as part of this. So it may not have a major impact for your business users, but if you want to move a transport or if you want to do some changes in the production system, that may not be possible. So we call it as a hard freeze from an upgrade or a conversion project perspective. As we move forward, we reach a ramp down phase and the system is handed over to the technical team. The first part is getting the data from any DB to HANA, which is handled in the migration phase. Let me just open my pen, and this is where the data moves from any database to HANA database. Now, once this is done, the update related activities are completed in this particular step, wherein if there are any pending activities with respect to moving the stack from ECC to S4 is completed here. To name a few steps which might be familiar to you is there are table conversion that happens in Paraconv. There are some data that has been imported into the system from the newer stack, which is called as a tabm. And then we have some post-processing with the data that is there, which is handled as part of the XPRAs, the AIMs, the XClass, and then the SDMIs as well. So all these activities are handled in this step. And once this is completed, then we have the data conversion that needs to be completed for the SD and the MM area. So for the SD and MM area, the conversion happens in the technical downtime itself. And then we move on to the post activities wherein the system is checked if everything is fine or not, if there are any nodes that need to be implemented to optimize the performance for the finance conversion, or if there are any patches that needs to be implemented, or if there are any parameters that needs to be updated for a HANA or an SAP system, those activities can be performed as part of the post activities. And then we hand over the system to the functional team, the finance functional team, which perform the customizing of the finance data and execute and perform the finance conversion of the data that is there in the system. Once this is completed, the system can be handed over for validation and then decide it should be a go or a no go, and then start with the ramp up activities. So this whole activity is part of the technical downtime, and from the start of ramp down till the end of ramp up, that is where your business downtime is. Now, our objective is to ensure that this whole business downtime can be reduced as short as possible. So two downtime optimized options that are available. One is the downtime optimized DMO and downtime optimized conversion. So let's compare the standard conversion with a downtime optimized DMO. Like mentioned earlier, this part is the standard DMO activities. And in the downtime optimized DMO, we have the shadow schema or the shadow instance that has been created. Along with that, some of the data can be migrated in the uptime itself. So this is where we are carving out some amount of time from our technical downtime in the uptime. So our uptime part, the technical uptime part, sort of elongates a little bit, but that helps in reducing the overall technical downtime, which is our main objective, to ensure the shortest possible technical downtime and the business downtime as possible. The second option is the downtime optimized conversion. Comparing this, so when we start with the downtime optimized conversion, as soon as the sum uptime processing is started, we create something called as the shadow system, which is skeletal in nature, and we ensure that the stack is updated to the target version. Now, once that is done, the first part is migrating the data from any DB to HANA. So that is where the data migration happens. Now, once this data migration happens, there are some data conversion related activities, which is XPRAs, XClass, and SDMIs. So we have enabled some of the XPRAs, XClass, and SDMIs to be performed in uptime phase. Not all the XPRAs can be moved to uptime, but at least the few long running ones have been identified and are enabled to be run in uptime. Now, once this is done, then we move into the data conversion activities. Now, you may observe that there is something called as the TMP instance. Now, this is a temporary instance wherein you can launch the system in a temporary instance mode, wherein it allows you to run the financial customizing activities in the system itself. So if you remember, we mentioned that you have to perform the finance customizing earlier, and then you can perform the finance conversion. Basically, you're defining the rules on which data goes, how, and why. So all these activities can be performed in the temporary instance, and then we initiate the financial data conversion activities. And along with that, the SD and MM related data is also converted. Now, when we talk about SD, the two tables that come into our mind is the KONB and VBFA. Now, the KONB gets converted into PRCD elements, and the VBFA table gets simplified there. So depending on the volume there, your uptime will also be longer. But this will help you in reducing the overall business downtime that is there. Just to give you some numbers, for a customer whose size is about 130 terabyte, they have started their project and they were able to run their first cycle and they were able to get the technical downtime to about 15 hours. And that is without any delta data in the system. So it's just copy of production system and running the downtime optimized conversion. Now, once this whole uptime processing has been completed, then we move on to the downtime part of it. So all the data that is being generated in the system from the initial data migration point in time till the downtime ready state, the delta data is migrated in the downtime phase. And if there are any tables that cannot be handled in the uptime, the sum uptime, those will be handled in the downtime. And as part of the overall stack update, the system is updated from ERP 6.0 to S4 HANA. And since there is a new set of data that has been come in, the data conversion for the MM, SD, and FI needs to happen. So that is taken care as part of this whole data conversion process. There are some XPRAs, XClass, and SDMIs which at this moment are not possible to be performed in uptime. So those will also be performed here. Now, once all these things have been completed, then you can hand over the system for post activities. Now, if you compare, there is no finance and ML material ledger data conversion in this block. So this is the advantage that you would have from a downtime optimized conversion option. Now, who can do this, or what are the prerequisites for using the downtime optimized conversion as an option for doing your system conversion from your ERP 6.0 to S4 HANA? You would have to go through the training of ADM 329 and clear the assessment of it. And once you have done that, you can raise an OSS message sharing your credential links so that you can get a password to use the downtime optimized conversion as an option for doing the system conversion for your ERP 6.0 to S4 HANA. The reason we are doing this is there are a lot of complexity that comes into play. So the person who is performing these activities has to understand, what do you mean by a hard freeze? What do you mean by a soft freeze? What are the tables that will not be available for the customer or the business users while the business uptime is running? What is the impact of triggers on the systems? What is the impact of a business process while the whole conversion is happening under the hood? So all these activities are being explained clearly in the training document, and you may have to look for the additional help document, which lays out what are the additional things that you may have to consider. Moving on. Now, what if we want to migrate our system from an on-prem data center to a cloud, or maybe include a RISE migration? So we have covered that as well. So you can use the Software Update Manager tool to transition to ERP, SAP Private ERP Cloud. And there are two options. The first one is the D move to S4, and the second option is DMO with system move. I'll start with the first option, which is the D move to S4. Now, if you have an option of connecting your existing data center to a hyperscaler or the RISE environment, and if you have a good network connection, then you can combine the conversion and the system migration from on-prem data center to the cloud in a single step, in a single business, in a single technical downtime window. What do you have to do? You'll have to install an AS, the additional application server on the target environment, connect it to your source database. So this becomes an extended part of your system. And that's where you run your Software Update Manager tool, and which will handle the conversion of your system from ERP, the update of your system from your ERP to S4, migration of your data from AnyDB to HANA, and also the data model conversion, the S4 HANA conversion from ECC to S4 in a single step. All the activities, say for example, the ramp down, the ramp up, the integrations, all would remain as it is. So there is no change in those aspects. The second option is DMO with system move. Now, there could be a possibility that you may not have a good network connection between your source and your target environment. Or you may have a connection, but you may not have sufficient bandwidth, or the latency is so huge, it could be in tunes of, say, 150 milliseconds or maybe 200 milliseconds, wherein running a DMO would be a very huge challenge. So in those scenarios, you can use DMO with system move option. The way we do it is you start the Software Update Manager tool in the source data center. You export the data along with the build of the target stack, and then migrate the data from the existing data center to the target data center. And on the target environment, you start the Software Update Manager tool and start the import of data. And all the downtime related activities can be performed in the target environment. Now, as soon as you start the export and import, your technical downtime would start. Now, this also has two options wherein you can think about a serial option and a parallel option. In the serial option, it's you move from start till the downtime ready state where all the data is exported, and then copy the entire SUM folder to the target data center, and then you start your import, and that's how your business downtime would continue. Now, as you can imagine, you cannot include downtime optimize option as part of the DMO with system move. Whereas in D move to S4, you can include downtime optimized scenarios or options along with the transition. Let's compare D move to S4 with DMO with system move. The first is the network part of it. So for D move to S4, you need a good connection, good network connection with low latency. I mean, we talk about low latency, somewhere about less than 10 milliseconds is what we look for. The lower, the better, because that helps in reducing the overall time that is needed for the round trip that happens between the source data center and the target data center. With respect to the downtime optimization options that are available, dmove to S4 helps you in using or allows you to use those options. But in dmove to S4, it's only the parallel mode that will help you in getting some optimization with respect to the overall runtime. The way the data is transferred from existing database to the HANA database is using the R3 load methods. So in the transfer mechanism, since there is a live network between the source and the target database, R3 load uses the memory pipes, which is faster with respect to the data transfer perspective. But whereas when you talk about the DMO with system move, it uses a file-based transfer. So all the data is exported to the file, you copy the file, and then import it. And yeah, you talk about the SIM process. We have just one process that is running for the entire system. Whereas in the DMO and system move, you have two processes. One is running in the source data center, one is in the target data center. And when we talk about DMO to SD move to S4, we are talking about additional application server, which is connected to your source environment, and then it switches to the target version in the cloud. To summarize, this is how it would look like. So when you want to perform the system conversion and also move the system from your existing data center to your hyperscaler or RISE environment, then you can use dmove to S4 with downtime optimized DMO, downtime optimized conversion, or DMO with system move option. Now, we have talked about multiple options. Now, there would be a question that comes in your mind is what are the decision factors on selecting the right option of SUM? The first and foremost is what is the business downtime available for your system that decides what to choose and what not to choose. Second is the size of the system. Is it small? Is it medium? Is it big? Can I live with a standard conversion? Should I use a downtime optimized DMO or should I go for downtime optimized conversion? Because there is one aspect that you will have to have a discussion with your core team and the business user is the freeze windows. So when we talk about freeze windows, there are two types of freezes that come into play. One is the hard freeze and the soft freeze. In the hard freeze, you're not allowed to import any transport. You're not allowed to do any customizing in the system because that will have an impact in overall conversion or the execution of or the performance of that particular cycle. And then the resource availability. With respect to the system, are you able to ensure that you get a good hardware, whether on your database side or your application server? Will you get a good application server on the cloud environment? Do you have sufficient network bandwidth between your source and data center, target data center? Are your data center, continents apart, or they are just sitting right next to you, or next building, or the same building? All these factors you'll have to consider while you are planning the right option for the SIM. So you would have completed the conversion of the sandbox. Now, how do we optimize? What are the tools available for you to optimize the overall runtime for the conversion? The first one, or the traditional way, is go and open the Ubgana file, which is available in the SUM folder itself, and then it lists out which are the phases, how long it ran, and what was the time. And based on that, you search the notes, and then it gives you recommendations. Now we have something called as the technical downtime optimization app. And let me show you a small demo on how it would look like. So as soon as you get your Ubgana file, you can upload the Ubgana file to the TDO app. And once you upload it, it can give you a visual representation on how this whole execution or the whole cycle ran for you. So it is divided into uptime, downtime, and the post-processing. Now, if you click on the uptime, it'll show you how long the uptime ran. Okay, I have to log in, just bear with me. Okay, and in the uptime, it'll give you a list of phases which ran for a very long time. And based on this, you can identify what are the things that you can do to optimize these phases. Similarly, when we talk about, say, downtime, which is what we are more concerned about, if you see here, the data transfer ran for 8 hours and 22 minutes. Now, why did it run so long? You can just click and it will give you a graph on which are the tables, what is the parallel processing, and all those data information is available. So this will help you in optimizing the overall data migration part of it. So you can plan for increasing the RT load processes, but then you'll have to think about Do I have sufficient amount of CPU or not? Do I have sufficient amount of memory or not? Do I have to tune my database parameters so that my reads are faster? Or do I have to tune my target HANA database parameters so that the writes are faster? So all these things can be analyzed and understood here. It also gives you a rating on your current cycle, how it is compared to other systems, or for the same phases, how good you are or how bad you are. You can even do a simulation. So, for example, you started a cycle with the standard option, and then if I want to say optimize the overall runtime from a business downtime perspective, if I use say downtime reduction through data archiving, then I can optimize it to about 19% of the runtime. If I use downtime optimized DMO, then I can reduce the overall runtime by 34%. But if I have to use a data transition using dmove to S4, then this whole runtime increases. But you have the option of adding downtime optimization techniques, which will help you in reducing the overall runtime. Okay. Moving on, you have heard about the SIM toolbox, which was used in the planning part of it. The SIM toolbox also has something for the post-analysis part of it as well. So in the post-analysis part, it helps you to understand what is the impact of downtime optimized conversion for a business operation. Now, the first thing is which are the tables which are being, which have a huge amount of changes. Now, if you remember, we talked about the data will be replicated from the initial data migration till the end downtime phase. Now, between this time, what is the amount of data that is being generated in the system? That is, and the software update manager tool has to replicate that data from the ECC data model to the S4 data model. There has to be a data conversion that has to happen, which typically happens in the downtime phase. So those delta migration or the delta conversion phases will have an impact. So this will give you an indication on how short or how long it could be. The second thing is you may have selected certain set of XPRAs and XClass to be run in uptime, but because of that, some of the tables would be flagged as read-only. And if there is a business process in which a business user goes and writes data into it, then there is a problem for the business user while you're using the SIM. So you will be able, either you have a discussion with your business user to see if it is critical for that moment, or can this be postponed, or can it be delayed for say a week? If not, then you'll have to take alternate options on how this can be optimized, or either we'll have to move it from uptime to downtime. This will also help you in understanding which are the X class which you can be included in the uptime. Now, as Miriam mentioned, it is delivered as part of the transportable correction instruction, which is SAP notes, or if your system is on a higher SAP basis release, it will be there in the system. To summarize, the first and foremost thing is you'll have to run the readiness check in your production or a copy of production system at the earliest, because based out of this, you may have some additional pre-projects or data consistency that need to be fixed in the system even before you start your conversion project itself. Or you may have a situation where you have to interact with your third-party vendors to identify what is a roadmap for certain third-party add-ons. So please allow yourself at least 6 months of time for understanding and analyzing and identifying what needs to be done based on the output of the readiness check while it is run in the production system. This will also help you in identifying the simplification items and what needs to be done. You can run the financial data quality and the CVI to identify if there are any data inconsistency with respect to the finance area or the CVI area, and if it needs to be fixed. If there are any business decision that needs to be taken in conjunction with the business users, then you have sufficient amount of time even before you start the project, so that you don't have those decisions on the critical project path. The next aspect is identify the constraints you have from a system conversion, the freeze periods, the availability of the hardware, the availability of the network, the bandwidth of the network, the latency. Are you planning for a RISE migration, or you're doing it in the in your existing data center itself? Do you have sufficient hardware that is available or not? And that will help you in identifying the right approach for the software update manager for conversion. And if you choose downtime optimized conversion as an option, you'll have to learn and take the assessment for ADM 329. And once you run that, the output can be included as part of the TDO app, imported in the TDO app, identify what are the long running phases, what are the ways to optimize them, and use those learning in the subsequent cycles to optimize the overall runtime, or also even identify what are the challenges that you might face with respect to the business process using the SUM toolbox. So with this, I have a couple of slides which will help you in guiding through the documentation of what we both have discussed. So the first is the software update manager. So there are some SAP notes, there are some blog posts, help documentation is available, which you can go through and understand what are the possibilities, what are the things that you have to consider, and how you can perform the conversion of your system. What are the decision factors that you have to take, how you can play around with the decisions. So all those things can be read and understood here as well. So these are the nodes and links for the downtime optimized conversions, the downtime optimized DMO options available for the conversion process. These are some of the nodes and the tool called TDO, where you can go and access the tool and upload your Upgana file and identify how you can optimize the overall conversion process. And then this is the node for the software update manager toolbox, the SUM toolbox, and the blog post with respect to that. With that, thank you for your time and patience. Mukesh, back to you.
Thank you so much for taking us through the entire presentation. I know we are already 2 minutes over time, but if I have to ask only one question, I know almost every SAP customer who's been using SAP for any number of time, any amount of time, knows about the SUM tool. If there is one thing that you think customers, even after using it for all their transports and upgrades, that they miss out on functionality or a particular thing that you think is highly valuable and impactful, but not a lot of customers use, what would that be? If there is something like that.
Okay, I think many of the customers are not aware about the new enhancements that are coming as part of the software update manager tool with respect to the conversion process. So we are putting a lot of efforts in trying to get most of the long running phases in the downtime to uptime so that the overall business downtime is as short as possible.
Reduced.
Yes. Just to give you an example, I quoted this earlier as well. There is a customer whose system size is about 130 terabyte. I mean, customers beyond 10 or 15 terabyte, they start to look towards NCDT as an option, but we were able to successfully complete a couple of cycles using the software update manager tool and the downtime optimized conversion. And this also included a cloud migration. And this overall technical downtime was somewhere about 15 hours. Now, this 15 hours may sound too optimistic, but this also doesn't include any delta data. So we don't know how much the delta data would add to the overall technical downtime, but we have the potential to run any size of systems conversion in less than 18 hours. Mia, do you want to
Okay.
add something?
No.
Yeah, I would
fully
like
agree.
to. Oh, sorry, Mira.
Yeah, Karin?
Good. Yeah, I would like to emphasize the message to the market. Please start. All partners and customers, start with your migration, start with transformation, make yourself familiar with all the material who is in the market. We have really in this series great presentations and great informations for all the relevant questions. And I would like to emphasize start. Start and do something. Mia, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for the chance for presenting here. And as mentioned several times, yeah, especially the readiness check is a great way to get a first impression on what lies ahead of you. And that you're then finally able to consume the latest innovations that we have.
Super
Thank you.
cool. Thank you so much for taking us through the presentation and sharing about the Zoom tool. Thank you, Karen and Gina, for helping us put together this series of speakers as well. So until next session, which is in a couple of days, this is Mukesh signing off on for Indus. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.